This show is all right. um, this is a hard show to review for me because I don't really have a lot to say about it, to be honest with you. Moon Knight is not a character I know a lot about. I probably know more than the average person, like the average person you find on the street. But I'm not gonna act like I'm a Moon Knight expert like I am with other characters in the Marvel universe. But I always thought Moon Knight was a pretty unique character. I always thought, his stories. I really like the Warren Ellis run. That's probably the only one that I've read from beginning to end. I've read bits and pieces here and there, but Moon Knight was always that character I was never that keen on. So going into the show, I didn't have a lot of expectations because let me tell you, when it comes to Marvel or I'm sorry, MCU shows or movies, I don't expect it to be just the comic. If I wanted the comic, I'd go and read the comic. Give me something new, give me something fresh. I don't mind if you do something different, as long as it's not totally ridiculous. You want to give me something different? Cool, whatever. Sounds good to me. And I thought this show was good. I thought it was good. I didn't love it, but I thought it was decent. Let's go through episode by episode. But first, let's get into the good stuff. Oscar Isaac is great. He does a fantastic job with this show. No complaints there with his performance. May Calamawy, I think is her name. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I messed up her name. She did a good job. Layla, I thought, was a very good character, and they should use her more in the future. I think she's good. Ethan Hawke was good as Harrow. Again, no complaints there. Decent villain. Not amazing. In the end of the day, he just kind of comes down to, I want to take over the world, and it's just like, oh, okay. But he wasn't bad. But yeah, let's go through this episode by episode. Episode 1. Really, really liked episode 1. Thought episode 1 was a great start, a great pilot episode. I really liked the character of Steven. I really liked how it went into his life and how it sucks. And I like that he wasn't just like a walking pity party. He's like, he has this sort of optimism to him where you look at him and you're like, or he says like, things aren't great right now, but that's the way it is. It can get better. He has this optimism towards him that just makes him very likable. And I really like that. So episode was really good. It had me really thinking like, what's going on? Why does he keep blacking out? Very interesting. And then actually, as you watch more of the show, it makes you want to watch that first episode again because you know more. It's very interesting that way. And I love the Moon Knight reveal at the end. It was epic. It was badass. The music was great. No real complaints with episode 1, to be honest. I thought it was very, very good. Episode 2 is kind of where the show faltered a little bit for me. So episode 2 is where the adventure part of the show comes in. And really, I can talk about episode 2, 3, and the first half of 4 in one big clump, which is, I was entertained by it, but I wasn't super invested in that. I guess I'm just not as invested as in the Egyptian lore as I was with just the character of Stephen and Mark. And I did like Layla, but I wasn't really invested, and she was really tied into more of the Egyptian part of the show than the Moon Knight part of the show. And that was just not as interesting to me. I just liked this character study. I think the show was at its best when it was just looking at Mark and Steven saying, okay, here's who they are, and we're going to find out more about them. That was super interesting. But the Egyptian stuff wasn't bad. It was good. It was kind of like a mummy movie, really. It was interesting. Episode 2 had that. I really liked how you would have Mark and Steven constantly fighting for control. I really liked how, as the show goes on, Mark and Steven really say, hey, we are brothers and we love each other, even though they fight a lot. And I like that. And I love how Khonshu is just a total dick. This show establishes that Khonshu is just a piece of crap. He is just the biggest dick on the planet, man. He is torturing these guys, and it's compelling to watch, Episode 3 was sort of a typical action episode. No, nothing really to say there. Just, it was fine. Episode 4, I was kind of like, okay, all right. The first half of the episode was them. They're going into this tomb and all this stuff's happening. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was kind of feeling like, I'm just not really feeling this show. It's not bad, but I'm just not as interested in it as I want to be. It's just kind of, it's fine. It's entertaining, but it's fun from an entertainment adventure sort of perspective. But on a story perspective, I'm not really interested in the Scarab stuff or Harrow or Omits, or I'm not really into all that. But then the second half of the episode goes into this. Mark and Steven die, and they go into this asylum, and you're like, what is going on? They're in this asylum. Harrow's there. Layla's there. Everybody from Steven and Mark's lives are there. There's this hippo. What is happening? Like, that is the stuff I loved. I thought the show was going to be more like that. Just what's real, what isn't, when do they black out, what happens when they black out. That's what I wanted more out of this show. I guess I was expecting like a cross between Daredevil and Legion, and it was more of a cross between like sometimes Legion and the Mummy. That's what I got, really. But yeah, the asylum stuff was great. I was super compelled. I love the ending of the episode where they just see this hippo and they're like, what? And then it just ends. It's like, that's awesome. That's what I wanted. I love it when an episode leaves you on something like that, of just a, what the hell was that? Like, Doom Patrol is a great show, and it leaves off on that in like every episode. Every episode you end, you're just like, what just happened? You know, and I love that. Episode 5 was definitely my favorite. Episode 1 and 5 are the two best in my opinion. Episode 5 was great. I loved how it went to their backstory. I love the stuff with the mom. I love how she turned from it never tells you, but I kind of inferred that she was probably always a little crazy, and the death of her son really just set her over the edge. And the dad's no better. He does nothing while his wife just beats the hell out of their son, you know, and it's really tragic. It's a tragic tale. And I don't know. I don't know a lot about dissociative identity disorder, but apparently a lot of it does come from childhood abuse, sexual abuse, you know, a lot of just traumatic things that happen in your childhood. Not all of it, but sometimes. But yeah, it does come from that sometimes. And I thought it was really good. I was really compelled by that episode. It reminded me of the WandaVision episode where Wanda and Agatha are going through their Wanda's life and just how sucky it is. You know, I just love them, watching them piece together, like, wow, this is our life. This is what it's been like so far. It's sad. It's good stuff. And episode 6 was, it was a typical big third act. Here's my problem with Marvel third acts. This is the same problem I have with Shang-Chi. I think the third act of this show is so much better than the third act of Shang-Chi. But Shang-Chi, my issue with that was it turned from this really personal, emotional conflict between a father and son. It turned from that into, okay, now I have to stop this dragon from destroying the world. And it's like, really, you didn't need that. The father and son stuff was fine. And I felt like with this show, I think the third act I enjoyed. It was entertaining. You know, at the end of the day, it's a superhero show. I liked it, but I'm like, you know, this is good. But it would be really cool if it was like also like a mental battle. Like there was some kind of battle going on in Mark's mind, you know what I mean? And there kind of was. He blacks out at the end, but I don't know. I just wanted more mental stuff with this show. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I just wanted more of like a character study, I guess. And I will say, one thing I really loved in the finale that not a lot of people did, but I really liked this, was he's fighting Harrow, and Harrow has him. He's about to kill him. He blacks out, and then he comes back up. Everyone's dead except for Harrow, who looks like crap. And he's like, that wasn't you, Steven. And Steven says, no, that wasn't me, Mark. And that wasn't you either. So immediately you're like, Jake Lockley. So I really like that. It's a good payoff. After all the blackouts that happen in the show, you know, one final one and the very climax, it's a good payoff. It really is. And I really, I love how Jake is very subtly in this show for a lot of it until the end. Like in the Asylum episode, there's a part where he's yelling at Harrow, and Harrow is like, get security in here. Like, they don't tell you that's Jake, but, you know, just look closely, and you're like, that's Jake Lockley. He's also the one who asked the woman out on the date at the beginning of the show in episode 1. He is like a subtle, like a boogeyman throughout the show. You're like, is he there? He must be. So, and it really makes you want to watch the show again just for all that. This is the kind of show that I did say, like, I think I did say I wasn't as interested as the Egyptian stuff. I still liked it. I still thought it was good. I just thought, like, this show's good, but it could be great if it really goes into more of the character of Moon Knight, of Steven and Mark, and even Jake. Haven't really talked about much Layla. I don't have a ton to say about her, but they definitely want to use her for the future, and they should. She's a very good character. Harrow was, like I said, he started out kind of interesting, but by the end, he's just like, yeah, whatever. He's just typical villain in a superhero movie. I want to kill everybody, whatever. I will say, one thing I found very interesting in the finale that they don't really go into, but I found it very interesting was Harrow and Amit are fighting. It was a cool kaiju battle at the end. I know I just said I didn't really like the Shang-Chi dragon fight, but I like the kaiju fight here because it felt more personal. But Khonshu and Amit are fighting, and now Amit tells him, she's like, we're doing the same thing here. The only difference is I don't give them the opportunity. You punish people for evil. I do the same thing. The only difference is I don't give them the opportunity to commit evil acts. And it makes you think, like, maybe to challenge your morality a bit. It makes you think, maybe it is a good idea to take out the trash before it gets dirty. But at the same time, Stephen brings up that point where it says, you're going to kill somebody, you're going to kill a kid for something they might do in 20 years. That's ridiculous. So I really like that. It makes like Khonshu is right. You shouldn't punish people unless they do evil acts. But at the same time, Amit does bring up a good point. She's like, but my way is better because you're letting people die because of the evil in this world. I'm not. And that was a very interesting point of view between the two villains. Khonshu is a villain. Let's be real here. Yeah, really liked that. The last episode was decent. It was fine. I like how at the end, Mark and Steven are brothers. And let's talk about that credit scene. Jake Lockley is here, and he is evil. Not evil, but he is an assassin for Khonshu, and I think that's really neat. Excited to see what they do. I don't know if there's going to be a season 2 or if they're going to have Moon Knight crossover into other MCU stuff. Not sure. Whatever they do, I'm excited to see it. There's definitely going to be more with this character, and I'm excited to see what they do. Oscar Isaac did a great job. Overall, I did like this show. I think it could have been better for sure, but I was entertained by it throughout. I like this more than... This is definitely on the higher end of the Marvel Disney Plus shows. My favorite's always going to be Loki until something tops that, but Loki's my favorite right now, followed by Hawkeye, followed by this. I like this better than What If. I like this better than Falcon Winter Soldier, and I probably like this about as much, probably about as much or more than WandaVision. So yeah, I like this show. I thought it was decent. Definitely think season 2 could be better, and I would just like it to be just a little. It doesn't have to be crazy, but I would like it to just be a little bit more brutal. I would like the show to. I know it's a Disney Plus show, but let's just get a little more, just like, you know what I mean. But despite that, enjoyed the show. Thought it was decent. Let me know what you think about it. I'm sure Moon Knight experts have a lot to say about this show, good or bad. And yeah, next one is Doctor Strange.